Were you invited to the celebration yesterday? I know Monday is the worst day of the week for most people. When I was working a real job, I used to start dreading Monday morning on Friday afternoon. But yesterday was different. Yesterday was special. Yesterday was cause for an impromptu Disney celebration. It was a celebration that only Disney could organize. The woke wieners were on the grill. The tuck-friendly bathing suits were perfectly fitted. The cucumbers were supersized. There was plenty of complimentary preparation H to ensure no one woke up this morning with a vicious Bruce caboose. The Butt Bongo celebration lasted into the wee hours of the morning. Headline at Non-Binary People magazine. Rachel Zegler celebrates Snow White being the #1 movie in the world. This is incredible. Break out the preparation H. I'm going to be pounding the bongo all night long. Woohoo! Yes, yes, yes. You know, it amazes me how deacons at Woke United Methodist can be so prolific at polishing the turd. It amazes me how they can take a huge embarrassing failure and present it as a massive success. Remember all those years that ESPN tried to present Bomani Jones as a success? For years, the originator of the term huge embarrassing failure was forced upon the dwindling audience at the worldwide leader in woke. The audience kept telling Bomani Jones, "Get off my TV." But for some reason, ESPN just allowed him to continue tanking their ratings. Not only does the mainstream media celebrate obvious failure, they also celebrate what I like to call the illusion of success. The most recent example of this came with Unrivaled. Over the last couple of months, the secondary dump in the charity of pretend basketball has been some of the least watched programming on TNT. Throughout the season, Unrivaled was struggling to eclipse 200,000 viewers. Their so-called championship game, where the winners receive 50,000 pesos, along with a complimentary top-shelf razor from Just for Men. This highly anticipated matchup between two teams featuring players that no one's ever heard of drew 364,000 viewers. Now, TNT is also home to AEW, which is it's kind of similar to Unrivaled. Unrivaled is the secondary pretend basketball league, while AEW is the secondary pretend wrestling promotion. The secondary wrestling dump, it drew 628,000 viewers on TNT last week. But if you look at wrestling media, and yes, that's actually a real thing, grown men who take a break from picking boogers and dingleberries to write about their favorite superheroes in Speedos. Ooh, John Cena turned heel. I hope he takes his shirt off. According to the media, AEW is a massive failure. But if AEW is a massive failure while drawing 628,000 viewers, what does that make Unrivaled, who struggles to draw 628 flies to a steaming turd? Well, according to the media, Unrivaled is a huge success. This is one of the reasons I was skeptical when I saw these headlines celebrating the success of woke Snow White. 24 hours before, I had just made a video claiming that woke Snow White was a huge embarrassing failure. So, how in the hell could it be a success 24 hours later? The short answer is, it wasn't. Imagine my surprise when I did my research and discovered that Snow White was still a huge embarrassing failure. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel is in the description below. This morning on the second channel, talked about the opening rounds of March Madness being a disappointment. Oh, Casey, I know. Juju Watkins tore her ACL. March Madness is not going to be the same. I said March Madness. I did not say the women's tournament. I feel bad for Juju Watkins. She seems like a great young woman. I hope she makes a full recovery, but I was talking about the real March Madness this morning, and the possibility that Cinderella teams are being sacrificed to make the later rounds of the tournament a bit more compelling. So if you haven't already, head over to the second channel and subscribe. According to Non-Binary People magazine, Snow White had to rise above controversy and negativity to achieve the #1 spot at the box office. Our hero, Rachel Zegler, has been dealing with harassment. White people were angry because a Latinx woman was playing the role of Snow White. Why aren't these people celebrating equity? Why aren't white people celebrating diversity? It's so sad. It's not fair. First of all, what does Latinx mean? And why are the deacons still using that term? Correct me if I'm wrong here. I thought Gabby Newsom, the Prime Minister of the People's Republic of California, I thought Gabby discontinued use of the term Latinx. For years, I have been wondering what the hell it means. According to the dictionary, the term Latinx is defined as a person of Latin American origin. It's used as a gender-neutral or non-binary alternative to Latino or Latina. What? If the proper use of this term is being used with someone who identifies as non-binary, why is People magazine using it to describe Rachel Zegler? To my knowledge, Rachel Zegler identifies as a woman, which means the proper pronoun would be Latina. With People magazine describing her as Latinx, wouldn't that be a violation of the woke commandments? Wouldn't People magazine be charged and convicted of the heinous crime of misgendering? Anyway, according to People magazine and Rachel Zegler herself, the opening weekend for woke Snow White was a resounding success. We were #1 at the box office. Normal people can no longer deny our success. While it is true that Snow White was #1 at the box office, that does not automatically mean it's a success. Once you look at the context, it is abundantly clear that woke Snow White is a huge embarrassing failure. For starters, there was minimal competition at the box office this past weekend. Snow White was competing with something called The Ash, The Alto Knights, and Locked. Who, and who? I don't know about you guys, but I have never heard of that garbage. This would be the equivalent of me celebrating my #1 status while competing in my 7-year-old nephew's basketball league, where both teams combined to score 10 points. This is the equivalent of Amin Khalif celebrating a gold medal at the Olympics while competing in women's boxing. Amin Khalif was the winner by default, just like Snow White was #1 at the box office by default. It's easy to be #1 when you don't have competition, but the real competition for Snow White, it was competing against their own budget. It is estimated that Disney spent $270 million destroying Snow White. Domestically, this polished turd generated $42 million in revenue last weekend. Now, I'm no expert in math. Hell, I proved that yesterday when I butchered counting games on the WNBA's national TV schedule. So double check my calculations here. But I'm pretty sure 270 minus 42, that is a loss of $228 million. Now, to be fair to Princess Zegler, this film generated another 40 or so million internationally. But even with international numbers included, Disney is still looking at a loss of $184 million. Someone please Make it make sense. Someone please explain to me how Snow White is a success. Like I told you guys the other day, it is extremely important to pick the right people. Casting for a movie, it's similar to hiring at a regular job. When you're hiring people at your job, it doesn't matter if they're the CEO or the janitor. They are representing your company. People will judge you based on their actions because you're the one that hired them. Disney made the monumental mistake of selecting Rachel Zegler to be the face of this franchise. It's a mistake that could end up costing them $100 million. Again, I am no expert, but I'm pretty sure the main purpose of producing a movie is to get people to pay to actually watch it. Kinda hard to do that when Rachel Zegler is telling over half the country not to bother. This is Rachel Zegler last year leading up to the election. Watch it for yourself.
Vote for Kamala Harris. And it's actually non-negotiable. Our rights are on the line, folks. Our reproductive rights. Go vote blue. And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business.
The problem for Disney, the problem for Rachel Zegler, people listened. It is incredibly difficult to get people to follow you. It is incredibly difficult to build and maintain an audience, but it is very simple to destroy it. If you tell people to stop following you, they will. Over the last few days, I have seen a lot of people on social media claiming that Rachel Zegler is ugly. Now, of course, the deacons are charging them with violating the woke commandments. The deacons are claiming they violated Article 1, Section 3 of the second woke commandment, thou shalt not commit mythical misogyny. Obviously, from a physical standpoint, Rachel Zegler is a beautiful young woman. However, Rachel Zegler has fallen into the trap. She's fallen into the trap that a lot of young women fall into. Rachel Zegler has been running that yapper, and she has talked herself into being the ugly duckling. The men in this audience know exactly what I'm talking about. Every man in this audience has met a beautiful woman before. She is stunning. She makes you nervous. You finally work up the courage to ask her out, and to your amazement, she says yes. Leading up to the date, you're wondering why you are so lucky. You're wondering how a woman of this caliber is still single. And then it happens. You sit down for dinner and she starts talking. She talks about her love of the boodle breeze on The View. She shares her dreams and aspirations of becoming a yenta. She talks about her involvement in the Me Too movement. She shares heartwarming pictures in front of a burning building during her peaceful protest with BLM. By the end of the night, you're flaccid. If you don't believe me, go watch the latest season of Love is Blind on Netflix. There's a blonde on the show. I think her name is Sarah or Shelly, Sally. Either way, go watch her transformation throughout that season. Physically, she doesn't change, but from your perspective, she will. It is the same thing with Rachel Zegler. Yes, men are visual, but that does not mean you can't talk yourself into being unattractive. Give me your thoughts on this. The media celebrates the success of Snow White when it's really a massive failure. Give me your prediction. Will Disney break even? Will they actually make money on this dump? Or could they lose tens of millions, maybe even $100 million? Let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Best way to contact me is through email, btlkc84@gmail.com. I'll see you guys later.